Good morning. We are back to the study of the book Liberation by the medium Francisco Xavier and the Spirit Andre Luiz. We have been going through the rescue of Margarida, who was heavily obsessed, and Andre Luiz with Eloy, the two learners, and Gubbio, the mentor, been helping the process. She's freed from the persecution, and the last chapter we had Matilde, who is the spiritual guide of all this process of the book. She's the one that asked in the beginning of the book for Gubbio to rescue Gregorio, the leader of the lower zones, one of the leaders of the lower zones, who's a dear son of hers. So this whole work has been done with the aim of rescuing Gregorio. This is the next to last chapter. The last chapter will be the work with Gregorio, but it is still not. This is a chapter where Matilde is going to give some instructions and try to help Margarida again, the one that was helped and assisted and rescued. Okay, so I'm going to ask Zoraida to read for us.
Yes, of course. An invaluable lesson. Obviously believing that she had given us a lesson that we can grasp, Matilda asked Elio to bring Margarita to that loving gathering, indicating that she planned to solidify her equilibrium and strengthen her endurance. A few minutes later, the object of our full attention over the past few days appeared in the room outside her dense envelope. She was walking hesitantly, and she seemed absent-minded due to her semi-conscious state. From what I could tell, the lightning had no effect on her eyesight. She seemed to be walking impulsively, as if she were an ordinary somnambulist. She automatically fell into Matilda's maternal and loving arms, and almost immediately she reacted favorably by gazing nervously at us. She seemed to be coming to little by little. Matilda wanted to awaken a few important centers of Margarita's mental life and began applying passes to her brain, an operation I did not understand as well as I would have liked. She applied magnetic passes to the conducting nerves of the organ responsible for the manifestation of thought, as well as along the entire sympathetic region. Later, Gubbio explained that the natural state of the incarnate soul may be compared more or less to deep hypnosis with temporary anesthesia, to which the person's mind, for the purpose of evolution, growth, and redemption in space and time, descends down through the slower vibrations that are typical of the lower planes. It was obvious that the metabolic phenomena were occurring within Margarita's paraspiritual organization. She began expelling from her chest and hands dark gray vapor-like fluids that vanished in the vast sea of the surrounding air. Right after this cleansing operation, the areas of the endocrine system began emitting diamond-like scintillations like a constellation of capricious contours shining in the darkness of her perispirit, which still now had been opaque and ordinary. The luminous waves flowed continuously from Margarita's chest area, and all we got the impression that Gubbio's ward was receiving a veritable shower of divine essences. At a certain point during this remarkable awakening process, the young woman opened her eyes wide and looked at us like an amazed child. At first, she tried to withdraw out of fear, but noticing that Matilda's gentle, illuminated face, she settled down as if magnetized by indefinable love. Matilda's kissed her lovingly. Upon contact by those sublime lips, Margarita seemed touched in the innermost recesses of her being and embraced Matilda, displaying true eagerness for spiritual wholeness.
Okay. So what we have here is Margarida being brought to this meeting in a sleep state. Okay, so we have to understand our experiences when we are sleeping. Our perispirit disconnects, of course, not completely, because if we disconnect completely, it's the death of the physical body. So it's still connected to the physical body, but the perispirit disconnects from the physical body and goes to the spiritual world to have different sorts of experiences. In this case, Margarida is being brought by Eloy to the group in a sleep state, in a dream state, to receive some counseling from Matilde. So the description here is that she arrives walking hesitantly and seeming absent-minded. This is a state that she is, it's a sleep state. So Andre Luiz says the lighting had no effect on her eyesight because she's not really there, let's say, still. We've seen in other books of Andre Luiz, especially we had a very interesting experience in Missionaries of the Light when Segismundo's parents are brought during their sleep state, and we read the different effects on the future mother and father of Segismundo, and also what they can see and how they react. If you want to understand better, you go to Missionaries of the Light, I believe chapter 13. So she's still Margarida is still unaware of what's going on, still in a scary state. But Andre Luiz compares her to an ordinary somnambulist. Remember, somnambulist here in the spiritist sense, in a trance, right? When you enter into a trance, you enter into a somnambulist state. So the comparison is a good one, and we are going to come back to it later. So she falls into Matilde's arms, and what I underline here that is important, Matilde begin applying passes to her brain. Andre Luiz couldn't understand well what she was doing. But again, passes that we do normally on our spiritist centers here in the physical world are also used in the spiritual world. One thing that is very important here to remember, and you probably forgot, Margarida is there through the mediumship of Gubbio. She's not fully present in the physical, no, because she's the spiritual world, in the material sense. She's using Gubbio as an intermediary to make herself, it's a materialization in the spiritual world. And we probably forgot about that, right? But she's there applying passes, magnetic passes. We talk about spiritual and magnetic passes in our spiritist centers. Spiritual passes is when you are intermediary of the passes coming from the spiritual world. Magnetic passes are when your energy, personal energy, flows through to the pass receiver. Normally, the passes in the spiritual center is a mix of magnetic and spiritual passes. Justara has a book that she describes it, Practical Guide for Magnetic and Spiritual Healing. So she applied the passes on the nerves or on the thought organ responsible for thought, so to make her mind clear. And then Gubbio explains later to Andre Luiz that the incarnate soul may be compared more or less to a state of deep hypnosis or temporary anesthesia. What does he mean by that? When we are incarnated, we forget a lot of our spiritual knowledge. So it is as we live our life under deep hypnosis or temporary anesthesia, in a sense of us as eternal spirit. So for the purpose of our mind, we descend to slower vibrations when we are incarnated. Well, because these slower vibrations are typical of lower plane. The more evolved we are, the more faster vibrations we connect to and we use. It's like the rays, right? The longer and shorter rays that have different effects, right? The shorter rays go farther. The lower, the longer rays go less, right? So what is happening to Margarida here, she began expelling from her chest and hands dark gray vapor light. These are fluids that accumulate in the physical existence. And for her to have a better understanding and connection in the spiritual world, Matilde makes her expel this dark fluid from her spiritual body, right? Which is something that she carries from the physical existence. So, and then Andre Luiz talked about this cleansing operation, and after it was finished, the endocrine system began emitting diamond-like scintillation. So it changed the vibration and the color of her perispirit and the emissions, right? Of course, Matilde's chest was emitting luminous waves. And finally, Margarida opens her eyes and looks around and understands better where she is. Her first reaction is to try to withdraw out of fear. Remember, she has been in a disturbed state for a very long time. So it's difficult for her to, once she reaches a clear state of mind, to appear completely aware of the surroundings. So she's a little bit scared, but when Matilde embraced her and she sees Matilde, she settles down. So she's ready now for the conversation, okay? Elmo, you want to make some comments on the passes and the areas and the brain, because I think that's, you can talk a little bit more sympathetic area and things like that. Sympathetic region.
To tell the truth, I don't know what they mean here by sympathetic region. We have a sympathetic and a parasympathetic system that commands, especially the autonomic system. The sympathetic is one to keep us at a point of fight or flight, and the parasympathetic is the one that slows things down, and they both work together to maintain stasis. So I don't know why they would be using the sympathetic system. They're the one that activate responses for fight or flight. But I don't know if he's using terminology that we could understand. Even by talking about the brain and the perispirit system, body, to me, it's a little bit confusing. So I'm really perplexed by this paragraph myself.
Okay. Yeah, of course, this book was written in more than 60 years ago, so maybe the terminology changed from there to here. I'm not sure, but I couldn't find anything relevant to this also. So the understanding here is that the whole process is Matilde's making Margarida more aware of the surroundings. Margarida spirit. Remember, she's in a sleep state. It's her perispirit that we are interacting. And the whole process is going to be a conversation between Matilde and Margarida's in the spiritual world, with Margarida in a sleep state, so the perispirit of Margarida. Okay, any questions here? Okay, Zoraida can continue.
Hearing wild with tear-filled joy, she cried out, "Mother, my dear mother, yes, my daughter, it is I. Love never dies. The union of souls transcends both time and death. Why did you forsake me?" asked Margarita, holding her close in rapture of inexpressible bliss. "I never did forsake you. The land of cardinal mist may at times seem to distance us from each other. Even so, no darkness could ever keep us apart. Our aspirations and hopes are mixed together like points of light in the darkness of separation, like the stars that resemble shining beacons in the nighttime fog, reminding us of the infinite and of eternity."
Sorry, it turns by itself.
At the loving sound of those words, the former oppressed woman seemed to awaken more and more on our plane. With longing eyes fixed on her mother, as if magnetized by immeasurable love, she asked in tears, "Dear mother, I'm just so worn out and unhappy." "Oh, now that the real struggle has just begun?" Matilda asked with a smile. "I feel that I'm surrounded by heartless enemies. I'm being tormented day and night. I feel an invincible animosity between my sentiments and the world outside of me. Even marriage, in which I had put all my dearest dreams, has only been a dark book of cruel disappointments. My soul is overwrought and oppressed. Frustration and spiritual ruin are at my heels. I know I've been a heavy burden to my devoted husband. He deserves a better fate." Violent sobs kept her from continuing. The venerable emissary wiped her tears and replied kindly, "Margarita, living in the physical body while understanding our divine responsibility is not at all easy when compared to the infinite glory that awaits us. We all have past lives of guilt to redeem, but we have to realize that if the human experience can be a dolorous path of personal self-sacrifice, it is also a blessed school in which the willing spirit can reach great heights. To do so, however, we must open our hearts to the inner climate of goodness and understanding. We are diamonds in the rough, covered by the hard gravel of our age-old imperfections, yet placed by the Lord's magnanimity in the setting of the earth. Suffering, obstacles, and conflict are the blessed tools that cut and polish us. What will we say about the precious stone that fled the hands of the stonecutter, or of the clay that rejected the work of the potter? You have to change your attitude toward your enemies. Enemies are not always those who consciously practice evil. Most of the time, they just lack precise understanding. They proceed along a certain line of thought because they believe in the infallible pathway before their eyes. Like us, they face problems with their vision that only time and personal effort to do the good can finally correct. Amphibians and birds are characterized by different impulses. Despite being children of the same world, Margarita, we just have to know how to use our enemies as our instructors. Strictly speaking, due to our relatively unevolved position in the less elevated realm in which we live at present, we're natural enemies of the deeds of the angels. Nonetheless, the angels do not punish us for our temporary inability to understand their divine work in the economy of the universe. Instead of condemning us, they look with compassion and extend their fraternal arms to us in 1,000 invisible and indirect resources that we may learn to scale the mountain of sublimation on our way to heavenly heights. When Margarita paused, the young woman interrupted enthusiastically. "Dear mother, I wish I could listen to the sweet music of your words forever. I'm so sad at foreseeing the whirlwind of earthly problems awaiting for us. For now, everything is consolation and hope. But tomorrow, I'll be imprisoned in the flesh once again, and my memory will be anesthetized in ceaseless battle with the monsters that assail us. That, my daughter, is the imperative of the task you called on to do. Even so, don't waste the treasure of time on futile considerations. Fill your hours of wholesome work with all the harmony possible, the source of all beauty, the intelligence that has more or less gone beyond the limitations of animality finds itself in the physical body as a warrior in the stadium of beneficent trials, in the arena of the sublime possibilities that the rim of the fog offers. There are those who ascend and there are those who descend. Don't avoid the valuable huddles on the road to perfection, nor drink the line illicit of illusion that is so equally drunk by all who have been defeated by the temptations of discouragement because they were unable to accept the challenge that the world issued them. For every soul that triumphs on thorny path, life is service, activity, and ascension. And regarding the gale of struggles that will take you to luminous pinnacles, do not think you are all by yourself. Thousands of others sweat and bleed in silence. They go through life without the love of a spouse or the blessing of a home. Unlike you, they do not know the gift of normal body, nor can they hope for the smallest dreams that you hold in your heart as a woman. They are forgotten men and helpless women who go from cradle to grave, unnoticed and questioned for, fallen. They live a regime of mental torment, and they travel the road unprotected and torn as far as the world is concerned, stifling their sobs, which if heard would bring them implacable punishment. Nonetheless, in spite of the thick veil of tears that makes progress so hard, they press on fearlessly, believing in tomorrow that is ever more imprecise and indistant, and which seems to lie hidden on the endless horizon.
Thanks, Zoraida. Sorry for the very long passage, but it's a whole speech by Matilde here that it's important to cover as a whole, right?
It's okay.
The first thing here is Margarida looks at Matilde and calls her mother, my dear mother. So we understand that Matilde was her mother in a previous existence. But what's also very interesting that probably you forgot, and I had forgotten also, but then I found out when I was rereading, is that in the beginning, when Matilde asks Gubbio to rescue Gregorio, her son, Gubbio asked help also in rescuing Margarida, a daughter of his. So she was a daughter of Matilde in a previous life, and she was a daughter of Gubbio in another life. They are all connected. So that's the first thing that it's important here to remember if you forgot. And I had forgotten. So what Margarida asked her mother, how did she forsake her? And Matilde said, I never did. I was always by your side. Again, remember, the spirits that love and care for us are always available to us when we open ourselves to receive their assistance. The problem is that we close ourselves to their assistance because we get too concerned with the problems of the physical life, and we don't open ourselves to the spiritual assistance that is always available to us. And then remember that Margarida has been going through a long process of obsession, so she's really exhausted, she's tired, and she's unhappy. And she starts talking about her unhappy state. And then Matilde tells her, well, the work is just beginning. The real struggle is just beginning. It must be tough to hear that, right? And then Margarida says that she's unhappy, surrounded by enemies, the whole obsession process. And even the marriage that hasn't helped her overcome the that this difficult state. She doesn't blame her husband. On the contrary, she tells that she's been a burden to the husband who has been devoted and, according to her, deserves a better fate. And then she starts crying, and Matilde talks to her that during our incarnation, life is not easy and is not supposed to be, because we all have carrying the past, and we have our past lives to redeem. But it is also a blessed school where we can learn and reach great heights. It's important to understand that the struggles build ourselves. So the suffering, the obstacles, and the conflict are the tools, the blessed tools that cut and polish us. So it is through suffering, obstacles, and conflict that we evolve again at this stage of evolution, being imperfect spirits. Okay, this is not mandatory suffering, conflict, obstacles. These are tools. Some of them are placed in our lives because we have to repair mistakes from our past, and some of them are placed in our lives as opportunities to learn and to grow. And at our stage of evolution, that's how we grow. Again, a reminder that I always say, if we are not pushed, we tend not to try to do anything. We tend to accommodate and in our comfortable little bubbles. So we need challenge. So the suffering, the obstacles, and the conflict are opportunities for us to grow morally and intellectually. And
complementary.
Yes,
those are tools, and more than that, they are only placed at our disposal when we are evolved enough, ready to make use of them.
perfect. Yeah, absolutely. We never have more than we can handle in our lives. And the enemies are not always those who consciously practice evil. If for those that missed Edward Christie's lecture yesterday, it was very interesting. You can find on our YouTube page or on the United States Spiritist Federation YouTube page. One of the things he said is that whenever someone is telling us something that we don't agree, we should give them 10% of space, meaning 10%, consider 10% of what they are saying that they are right, to change our way of viewing things and to be more open to different opinions and different points of view, because again, we are imperfect, so we are not 100% right. So even if we consider that we are 100% right, let's try to think that we are 90% right, and let 10% be open to different opinions so we can analyze, we can reason. Again, if we close ourselves in our thought process thinking that we are right 100%, we run the risk of becoming fanatics. So let's look at our enemies. There's those that also believe that they are right. They are not always. Some of them practice evil consciously, but most of them, they are not consciously practicing evil. They are just think that they're right in their own way. They believe in the pathway before their eyes. And remembering that we are here, causing harm to ourselves and to others, but we are not being condemned by the angels here, the more evolved spirits. We are being helped and assisted. Margarida then complains that she's listening to everything. It's very beautiful, but once she goes back to the flesh, her memory will be anesthetized in the battle with those that are persecuting her. What she means is, of course, when you wake up, you don't remember what happened in your sleep state. again, some people are able to remember more, some people are able to remember less, but we cannot remember everything. And again, our brain is very capable of connecting the dots. So what I always say about dreams, the general remembrance of dreams is really what happens. The details may be creations of our own brains connecting the dots. So she's going to remember a very nice experience overall, but she won't remember the details. And Matilda explained that that's the task we are called to do when you are incarnated, and asked her to work. That's the only way to evolve, work. We, as evolving from the animality, we need to look for the sublime possibilities to evolve. Because for every soul that triumphs in the thorny path, life is of service, activity, ascension.
Joe.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I am with myself. I just want to connect the dots.
Sure.
When I think it was Andre Luiz said that the incarnate being is like living in a hypnotic state or under some kind of general anesthesia. That's the connection that you can make, which we just stated there, that once Margarita wakes up, we won't not remember all that conversation, everything of there, because now she's going to be fully back on the incarnated state, and is going to be in that state of semi-hypnotic or semi-under general anesthesia. So you can make the connection of it there, and those passes that she received was exactly to remove all that influence of the flesh and remove all that semi-hypnotic state or that general anesthesia state that usually as incarnate being living. And that's why going back to the physical body, associating to the dense matter, she won't be able to remember all that conversation.
Perfect. Very good point, Elmo. And just to finalize here, this last chapter, what Margarida says, Matilde says, is that we tend to, to focus on our suffering, and we forget about the others that struggle more than we do. Those, as she says here, there are thousands of others who sweat and bleed in silence, that don't have any love, that don't have a physical body that is normal, forgotten men and helpless women who go from cradle to grave, unnoticed and crestfallen. Meaning those that if we look outside of our own selves, we'll see the struggles, those that struggle even more than we do. And that's, our objective here is to be of assistance to others that are in need. That's the only way for us to progress. So she's calling the attention of Margarida to focus less on her and focus more on the others that are struggling. Okay. Comments, questions here? Okay, so let's move on.
Lovingly following her mother's line of thought, Margarita replied, "Mother dear, please teach me to get on with my life. I want to honor the blessed opportunity I've received. Do not try to satisfy all your desires. Instead, fraternally serve all who need to be upheld by a strong arm. Help others instead of seeking help for yourself. Understand others without expecting to be understood. Forgive others without asking for your own forgiveness. Support others without expecting to be supported. Give without meaning to receive in turn. Do not look for human respect, which can make you seem better than you really are. Instead, in every time and place, Seek the divine blessing of the approval of your own conscience. Do not seek to stand out. Above all, perfect your own sentiments more and more without flaunting your vacillating and doubtful virtues. Act rightly and ignore the meaningless or poisonous comments of inveterate gossip. When receiving advice from others, distrust words that flatter you, your supposed personal superiority, or words that could make you hot-hearted. When faced with abundance or scarcity, remember the endeavor the Lord has called you to perform and do good in his name wherever you may be. Remember that life in the physical body is extremely short and that your mind should always be filled with as many sanctifying ideas as your hands are filled with wholesome labor. But in order to carry out such a plan, you must open your heart to the renewing sun of the highest good. If your soul is shut against your neighbor's happiness, you will never find your own. The joy you spread around the feet of others will make you rich in joy. By soaring peace, you will reap your own. Such are the principles of the radiant life. No one can reap supreme joy by shutting oneself off from others. For the divine wisdom, the shepherd who has lost his flock is as unfortunate as a sheep that has lost his shepherd. Failing to assist others is as detrimental as losing one's way. Self-centeredness may create an oasis, but it will never construct a continent. Margarita, you must learn to go beyond yourself and heed the needs and pain of those around you.
Okay, thanks. So what Matilda is telling Margarita here, Margarita asked for advice, how to get on with her life, because she wants to honor the opportunity of the incarnation, which is a blessed opportunity. And then Matilda goes through a series of statements here of, that you can resume in: without charity, there is no salvation, the maxim of Spiritism, right? And everything is in with the objective of living outside your own self and working towards the others. Help others instead of seeking help for yourself. Understand without being understood, forgive without asking for forgiveness, support others, give without meaning to receive, be careful with praises, do not look for human praises that you may find yourself with vanity, do not seek to stand out, ignore the meaningless comments of others, gossip, just be careful with words that flatter you, either on abundance or scarcity. Remember that you are doing the work that we were given to perform. Always remembering the physical body life is very short, is a drop in eternity, and so we should take advantage of it by working. And if we close ourselves to the others' happiness, we will never find our own happiness. As we spread joy to others, we will achieve joy. And by sowing peace, we will reap peace. Self-centeredness may create an oasis, but it will never construct a continent, because we isolate ourselves and we don't connect to others. We cannot shut ourselves from the world. So we need to, finally, she says, you need to learn to go beyond yourself and heed the needs and pain of those around you. Again, the concept of charity. These are all very beautiful lessons that she leaves to us, and it's important for us to read and reread, to remind ourselves our true objectives of our incarnation. And that's what Matilde tells us here the purposes of our life in the physical world. Okay? Comments, questions?
So yeah, you could summarize this whole suggestion of Margarita is seek to live your life in accordance with the teachings of Christ to the best of our abilities. Because you just described the whole 3 years of teaching of Christ right there, right? But more significant yet is that by not putting Christ's name in this passage, it transforms it in a completely universal teachings that is applicable for anyone with or without religion or choosing one or another religion. The application of that is absolutely universal, and it's contained in any institution that seeks to upgrade humankind morally.
Yeah, I didn't underline anything here because I would have either to underline everything
Yeah.
or not at all, because it's all very important, right? So again, I recommend you go back and reread that, because it's really a guideline for true happiness in our physical life. Okay, Zoraida.
Yes. The benefactor paused, feeling herself bathed in the infinite light of those unforgettable moments. Margarita asked in heavenly bliss, "O God, most merciful Father, to what do I owe the unforgettable grace of these moments?" Still embracing her daughter and perhaps wanting to make the scene as familiar as possible, Matilda approached us and introduced us to Margarita as her personal friends. We struck up a warm conversation that extinguished the wave of tears that had come upon us due to Matilda's moving and unforgettable lesson. The time has come when the benefactor said she had to leave. However, she first addressed her daughter resolutely. "Margarita, now that you are as fully conscious of yourself in our realm of action as you can be, listen to us. Do not think that I
have visited you for the mere pleasure of comforting you." You don't see that?
No.
That
okay.
That would perhaps.
Yeah, now I got it. Would perhaps lead you to the pathway of a responsible unconcern, which never brings us true peace. In everything, the divine will has to be the soul of everything we do. The farmer who plows the soil and irrigates it waits for something in return from the crop that requires his daily effort. Whether direct or indirect, veiled or obvious, help from on high is not just a display of heavenly power. Those who live in the highest rims would never risk coming down to the home of an incarnate mind without lofty objectives, just as intelligent artists would never, without educational purposes, influence spectacles of an intellectual culture involving brothers and sisters whose reasoning and sentiments are still rudimentary. Time is precious, my daughter, and we can never abuse it without grave harm to ourselves. In light of the questioning look on Margarita's troubled face, Matilda continued, "In just a few years, I will return to the physical spheres of struggle." "You will?" cried Margarita in shock at the perspective of reincarnation for the illuminated being that has stooped to visit us. "Why would such punishment be imposed on you?" "Don't hold on to such incomprehension regarding the law of labor," replied the messenger with a smile. "Reincarnation is not always just a simple regenerative process, although most of the time it does comprise a collective measure of spirits that are opulent in lawlessness and crime. The earth is like an immense ocean where the industrious souls finds eternal worth by accepting
the imperatives of labor, the divine goodness offers it.
Okay.
Furthermore,
now I have, okay. Furthermore, we all have sweet ties of the heart that may linger for many centuries in the depths of the abyss. It is crucial that we search for the lost pearls, so that the paradise does not remain empty of beauty to our eyes. After God, Love is the glorious power that feeds life and moves worlds.
Okay. So, so now, after Matilde has finished talking to Margarida, Margarida asks, what do I owe for this moment? Why am I here? So Matilde introduced her to Eloy, Andre Luiz, and the others present there. And she prepared to leave, but she tells Margarida that, everything that the superior spirits do have an objective, have a purpose. Nothing is in vain. They are not there to free Margarida from the obsessors and give her some peace without asking her something also. You need to commit yourself to the work. So she's saying, I haven't come here only for the mere pleasure of comforting you. Because in that, if you just free her and she can go to live her life carelessly, and the objective here is to do something useful for her and for those in need of her assistance. And Matilde says that would those that the superior spirits will never risk coming down to the home of the incarnate without lofty objectives. Time is precious, and we can never abuse it with grave consequence to ourselves. So she tells the reason that she's going to return to the physical sphere of struggle. She's going to reincarnate. And if you remember on chapter 3, Matilde tells Gubbio that she will reincarnate to be Gregorio's mother. She says, in just a few years, I shall descend into the whirlwind of corporeal struggles in order to wait for Gregorio in a lifetime of difficult and dolorous redemption. So she told us there in chapter 3, she told Gubbio that she was going to reincarnate. And now we are seeing here, she talking to Margarida that she's going to reincarnate, and we can guess where this is going to, right? But Margarida, of course, she's surprised why, according to Margarida, an angel has to reincarnate. Why the punishment? Because she feels that her incarnation is a punishment because she's struggling. And Matilde says that reincarnation is not only a regenerative process, although most of the reincarnations they are corrective measures for spirits that are still struggling in the inferior tendencies. But also the reincarnation process is an opportunity for more evolved spirits to come and work and assist humanity to evolve to the labor that divine goodness offer it, right? So for all those that still have loved ones struggling to evolve, the reincarnation is how she says it's beautiful, right? It is crucial that we search for the lost pearls so that paradise does not remain empty of beauty to our eyes, meaning our loved ones that we leave behind will be empty spaces for ourselves until we work to redeem that. So that's what she's telling here. Of course, Margarida doesn't know about Gregorio, but we know that Matilde is coming to be Gregorio's mother, as we are going to see later. Okay? Comments, questions? Okay. Go on.
Matilda gazed at the rapt Margarita, and after a short pause, she said, in light of all this, I hope you will not forget the wholesomeness of motherhood and the guidance of reincarnating spirits. Our highest potential might get lost in the spheres of starting over due to the lack of determined, conscientious hands that could guide us through the labyrinths of the world. Love is almost never lacking in the home, where the soul adapts to the recapitalization of the important endeavor. However, limitless love can be as noxious as limitless harshness. Keep in mind, my dear, that when it retakes the physical body, the most ennobled spirit must endure the body's rules. The physiological laws that govern life on earth make no exceptions. They apply as strictly to the righteous as to the unrighteous. Of course, the angel who descends to the depths of the coal mine is still an angel, but it cannot escape the oppressive climate of the subsoil. Temporary forgetfulness will accompany me in the dampers of the physical cells, but the success I'm seeking will only come about if I can count on your strong and watchful guidance. I am well aware of the fact that when you retake the physical body that links you to the daily rim of the earthly struggle, you will forget our conversation tonight. Still, the health and harmony that are going to flood your pathway from now on, along with the optimism and hope that will persist in your mind due to the indelible and vague memories of the divine moments, will not let you forget all of it. Care for your body as someone who is preserving a sacred vessel for the Lord's service. You can expect me shortly. We shall live together on the meritorious pilgrimage. In the blessed kinship of blood, we shall be mother and daughter, so as to learn more intensely the science of universal love. In fact, Margarita, my return is going to be a painful sacrifice for your fragile and delicate body. Even so, please help me in the renewed sowing so that I may be useful to you in the inevitable harvest. Do not receive me in your arms as if I were a spoiled and idle doll. Outward adornments never bring the heart true happiness. Instead, a crystalline and edifying character is the only sure foundation upon which to build a good conscience. The greenhouse can nourish the prettiest flowers on earth, but it cannot produce the best fruits. The fruitful tree requires constant care and assistance of the orchard man, but one must realize that it will only grow strong under the tormenting temperatures of high summer, hard rains, and the gusts of the gale. Struggle and strive are sublime blessings through which we can overcome our old obstacles. We mustn't belittle them, but see them as blessed opportunities for our evolution. Please understand my needs so I could understand yours when the time comes. Human conveniences are respectable, but spiritual conveniences are divine. Help me to achieve stability in the former so that I may meet the heavenly imperatives of the eternal spirit. As soon as I am in your arms, do not relegate me to gaudiness and uselessness under the pretext of keeping me in your maternal protection. It is not with outward ornaments that we will enable the precious tree to grow and bear fruit, but with the persevering toil of the hoe, constant watchfulness, fertilizing and pruning. Do not lose sight of me, so that love for God and gratitude towards him may last forever in my fraternal memory. Help me so that I may be useful when the time comes. Edified by her indirect lesson, we could see the tearful Margarita was promising everything asked of her.
Okay, so Matilda is telling Margarita what's going to happen as she prepares to reincarnate as Margarita's daughter. First, she said that she hopes that she will not forget the duty of motherhood. That some part of this conversation gets printed in her physical brain. So the sphere of starting over is the reincarnation. But she then starts asking Margarita how to deal with a child, with a daughter. first telling her limitless love can be as noxious as limitless harshness. And that's very important here. Sometimes we forget overprotection and excessive love, trying to avoid all obstacles on the path of our children can cause as much harm as completely ignoring them. There is this passage of again in Missionaries of the Light, of the mother that is going to reincarnate and receive the 4 children that she had in her previous existence, that she spoiled all of them through excessive love and excessive care, didn't prepare themselves for life, prepare them for lives, and they all got lost in different paths on life, and they are all in the lower zones, and she's there coming to a new reincarnation to rescue all 4 of them, all of them coming with difficult struggles, physical or mental struggles, except one daughter that was going to reincarnate to be helping her. So again, not unconditional and limitless love, but responsible love, making the child aware of the responsibilities and allowing them to learn and to evolve on their own path. And she reminds Margarida that an angel who descends to the depths of the coal mine is still an angel. What does she mean is a superior spirit that will come to a reincarnation will have all the moral qualities that a superior spirit has. So, you know, the abilities to work here with the moral advancement will all be present. But again, the early stages of infancy is when they can receive still some influence from the parent that they may be an angel, but they're not perfect spirit. So there is something that can be helped in them. And the assistance there is to better prepare them for the struggles of physical life, but not preventing them from facing the challenges that they have to face. She talks about Margarida forgetting about the conversation, but that you know, she will keep some of the vague memories that will stay with her. But also she tells Margarida that it's going to be a difficult pregnancy, painful sacrifice for your fragile and delicate body, meaning difficult pregnancy that Margarida will have to suffer, to go through. But they are going to be mother and daughter, and she keeps asking her not to receive her in her arms as a spoiled and an idle doll, because what she needs is to build character, to build a good conscience. And then she compares with a tree that only grows strong when it's exposed to all the intemperies, the rain, summer, and winds, and everything that makes a tree grow strong. And to work together, to be united in the construction of something useful for both of them. Help. She's asked her to help her, and in return, she will help back when the time is come. So she will take care of Margarida when Margarida gets older, right? So it's a very interesting message on the reincarnation and how to deal with the children that we receive. Okay, questions, comments? Okay. So last part.
What she had said applied to all of us, and we would keep it in mind for a long time to come. However, we could see that Matilda was ready to leave. She said a few more comforting words to her beloved daughter, lovingly applied magnetic passes to her to readjust her to her spiritual centers, and then asked Elio for his help in taking her back to her physical body. Finally, bidding us all farewell, the great mentor added a few parting suggestions. Margarita, do not forget the kingdom of beauty that you can establish in your home. Resolutely avoid the perilous ghosts of jealousy and discord. Learn self-denial regarding the tiniest matters so that you may happily receive the light that emanates from sacrifice. Do not use trifles to compromise the spiritual success that experience may offer you. You may now be free of outward evils, but you are not yet free of your own. Trust in the divine power and don't lose heart, even when the tempest whips the innermost fibers of your soul. Mother and daughter exchange an embrace full of indefinable love, and approaching Gubbio, Matilda discreetly explained the work she had planned for the next few hours, stating that she would be waiting for us nearby. Then she thanked us with exceeding kindness. She did not give us the chance to tell her about the acknowledgement and joy in our souls. Matilda left after restoring to our instructor the energy she had temporarily borrowed from him. Gubbio took the reins of the endeavor and informed us that, except for the four spirits who would keep fraternal watch over Gabriel's home, we should all leave for the higher spheres, stopping only in one of the fields of exit from the corporeal realm.
Okay. So Matilde says that she's ready to leave. She says some comforting words, applied magnetic passes to Margarida, meaning she prepares Margarida to return to her physical body. So she's readjusting her perispiritual centers, and then ask Eloy again to take her back to her physical body. And then she continues asking Margarida to take care of her home, to establish a kingdom of beauty in her home, trying to avoid the ghosts of jealousy and discord, the things that can harm our relationships in our home. So let us learn to denial regarding the tiniest matters. Sometimes we give too much importance to little things, and we should try to avoid giving too much importance to small things because it only causes us harm. So don't, she asks her not to enter into useless fights. And very important, she says, you are free from the outward evils, meaning you are no longer obsessed, you are no longer influenced by the spirits that are trying to harm, but you are not free from your own evils, meaning we are all imperfect spirits. We cannot blame everything on the spirits that surround us. There are a lot of things that we are responsible ourselves for, our own mistakes and our own shortcomings. So we have to understand that we have to deal with our own inner demons in terms of overcoming and learning to evolve, and not blame everything on the external forces, and to keep strength, to not lose heart, right? And then Matilde approaches Gubbio, talks about Gubbio for the plans, and then she leaves after restoring the instructor the energy she had temporarily borrowed from him. Again, she's materializing there in that place in the spiritual world using Gubbio's energy. So she restores Gubbio's energy and leaves, and Gubbio, let's say, comes back, right? Because he was in a state of trance in the spiritual world as a mediumship. And then he talks about that they all should leave, stopping only in one of the fields of exit. And it's very interesting. On chapter 3, the expression exit areas refers to the boundaries between the lower and upper plane. What are these boundaries? Is when the lower zones, the disorganized spheres of the spiritual world end, and the organized spheres of the spiritual world start, the upper planes. So we know about Nosular. Nosular is an organized colony in the spiritual world at the first level of the evolutionary levels in the spiritual world. So the division between the lower zones and Nosular would be what they call here the fields of exit, or the places, the intermediate places, and that's where they are going to be next to receive Gregorio in the last chapter of this book. Okay, so that's it for this chapter. Any additional questions, comments? Elmo, anything you have to add here? No.
No, just thinking over here, if that instruction of Matilda in parenthood should be mandatory at all maternity places. Once you deliver, you should be given that thing for to read on how to raise your kids.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, accepting our limitations and the mistakes we're going to make. We're not perfect spirits, so we are not going to be able to be perfect in our education. But being conscious of our responsibilities is what we can do.
You can only give what we have.
Yes, teach what we know. So next month, we are going to, I'm not sure if we'll be able to finish this last chapter in one class because it's a long one. We may have to do it in two Sundays, but we'll see what happens. And actually, when the first Sunday of February 5th, we are going to have an event at our Spiritist Center from 2 to 4 p.m. It's a mediumship forum called Lifting the Veil, Communication with Spirits. I'm going to give you more details as we go throughout the month, but that's going to be at SGNY building on the 4th floor on the larger room there from 2 to 4 p.m. We're going to talk about mediumship. It's going to be a presentation on mediumship according to Spiritism. It's a trial run for a similar event in 2024 that we want to open to all those that are curious about mediumship but never heard of Spiritism. So that's the idea. Wayne, if we could have you being part of this event in terms of bringing some questions or being present, we would appreciate. We can talk about it later. It will be a good opportunity. This is an event that is not going to be online. It's going to be only presential, okay? Because we may record it. I don't know yet, but we are not going to do it live because it's a trial run. We need to exercise on how to prepare ourselves to open questions on to answer questions on mediumship to the public that doesn't know Spiritism. And we are going, of course, for the 2024 event, we are going to make an effort to advertise it outside the Spiritism circle. But this one, you can, Wayne, Julio Carvalho is aware of it. So, of course, he's going to announce at the center. But we're doing together. It's organized by the Tri-State Spiritist Federation. We're doing together with the Inner Enlightenment Spiritist Society. Will be a panel of 4 of us talking about answering questions about mediumship. So the format is a 30 minutes presentation of mediumship according to Spiritism, mediumship meeting in a Spiritist center. This is for 30 minutes. Then we'll have we may have a presentation. I'm still discussing with Laura. She's going to present her mediumship a little bit, talk a little bit about her for like 10 minutes and her experience and how did she come to Spiritism and how did Spiritism has helped her with her mediumship. And then we'll have 1 hour or 45 minutes of Q&A. So if you want to start thinking about questions to bring to the event, on questions on thinking that you are someone that want to learn about mediumship according to Spiritism, but you never heard of Spiritism. That's the objective of the questions that you should bring. Okay, so for us to practice on how to do an event that we are planning for the year 2024. Okay, but we'll talk about it throughout the month. Okay. Next Sunday, the first Sunday of the second, actually it will be the third Sunday of the month, but the second Sunday for us, we're going to study the gospel according to Spiritism. And the next edition of the Spiritist Review is being launched today. So you are going to receive it with our email tomorrow. You can access the articles and read about it. Okay. Carol, can you do our final prayer?
Sure, definitely. Thank you, everyone, and Happy New Year. Thank you, John. Thank you, Elmo. And thank you, Sarita, for reading. Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we give thanks again for the opportunity to be together as brothers and sisters for our study of the book Liberation, Chapter 19. We give thanks for the compassionate work of the high order spirits and their guided interactions with difficult disincarnate and incarnate spirits. Elevated mediumship with higher moral purposes is very important. We face our challenges directly with effort. We attune to the good spirits and benefactors for guidance. We do our part to be of service. We activate our free will to keep our vibrations positive and focused. Our time here and our intent are very important. It's meant to be used wisely in the physical and spiritual worlds as well. We give thanks to the spiritual benefactors for our guidance today, for the inspiration and assistance that we will receive now and every day. We give thanks to our teachers, our mentors, the directors, our counselors, our mediums, and the workers as well. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us and for our loved ones as well. We pray for inner peace and we pray for world peace so needed at this time. We pray for those who are suffering in the physical worlds as well as the spiritual worlds. And we pray for SGNY, our center, and for all Spiritist centers throughout the world. May they grow and may they prosper and may they expand. As we close now, we humbly ask for safety and protection as we return to family, friends, loved ones, and coworkers. May we go forth now as beacons of love, of light, and of peace. So be it.